All right. Did it give you the little recordy notification? Okay, thank you, Rachel. All right, brilliant. Welcome, everyone. My name is Kat. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a referee. And this presentation is transitioning to sevens. So as we know, here in Texas, our 15 season has just wrapped up. Just had all that championship stuff, and now we're headed into the hottest part of the year, and when we take on the lovely game of sevens. Good old group photo from Bloodfest. Everybody can still smile at the end of the day is proof, though this might have been the beginning. Okay, so a couple of things that we're going to cover. The law variations. So actually what's different in law between sevens and 15s. Advantage, a bit about penalty, scrum advantage, and how our advantages differ in sevens and how we apply them differently. Our zero tolerance areas, which aren't necessarily in law but are in application, time management, and then at the end of the day, my tips and tricks. And I like to think this photo represents me explaining my tips and tricks to you guys. I don't know, works for me. See if it works for you. Juan doesn't look sold on that, so at any moment, if anybody has a question, feel free to drop it in the chat or unmute yourself and ask. I will be checking both. Excellent. So some of our actual law variations, as well as just one tactic I want to jump in on. Obviously, players on the team, there's 7, not 15. I feel like I don't have to explain that, but and then there's 7-minute halves, 2-minute halftime, maximum of 2-minute halftime. And then 30 seconds for the conversions and the restart kicks. We will cover that a bit more in time management. 5 replacements as well. It's just on off. You can have 8 players on the team. You get 5 like substitutions. So the same player who left can come back on, not the same as 15. So don't worry, as long as there's 5, blood is not included in that. We don't have HIA naturally at the club level, so head injury is just recognized and removed. We typically won't have an issue of people going over the 5. I will say here, if it goes to extra time, goes to golden point, they do get an extra replacement, though that's going to be on every individual tournament. So every tournament you go to, just ask your tournament manager because it may differ. Awesome. So kickoffs. A lot of our infringement at kickoffs are replaced by free kicks. So if a kickoff doesn't go 10 and is played by the team that kicked it, it's a free kick. The kickoff goes straight into touch. It's a free kick. If it goes in goal, through the in goal dead, it's a free kick. If it goes in goal and is immediately grounded by the defense, it's a free kick. When in doubt, it's a free kick. It's really kind of easy because everything's kind of the same. It's just all a free kick. Obviously, with kickoffs, just making sure if it goes up and it bounces, it can bounce 10 without being touched, and that's a play on. Or if the defending team, right, team who's getting the ball kicked to them, they choose to play it, play on. And they don't get an advantage for that. So you cannot play advantage on that. If they choose to play it, that's their choice. It's just a lovely play on. All right. Quick throws, also because sevens is a much quicker form of the game. It's much shorter. You do have a lot more quick throws, so it's good to remind yourself when is a line out formed and when would a quick throw be on or off. So I'm going to poll the crowd. Anybody is welcome to shout out here. When is a line out formed? We love that, is when the guy named Mark shows up. So when is a line out actually formed?
Is it 2 people per team are lined up next to each other, creating the line out?
Yes, 2 people, that's exactly it. 2 people from each team at the line of touch. So that is beyond 5 meters from the touch line, and that's, again, 2 from each team. Basically, a line out has already happened, or there's enough people there that, no, there's not going to be a quick throw. So if the team that would be throwing the ball in doesn't have anybody there, and there's 3 players from the other team all jumping up and down saying mark, 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 they can still throw in quickly if they'd like, because they haven't put anyone in, lineout hasn't formed. What prevents a team from taking a quick throw? It's a couple of things that have to happen to the ball, where the ball goes, etc., that would prevent that quick throw.
As long as the ball wasn't touched by anybody else or went out of the field of, out of the, you know what I mean?
Playing enclosure. Yeah. So one there, if the ball goes outside of the playing enclosure is a bit different wherever you go. Some people say it's underneath, you know, that rope that's marking the spectators, etc. That's actually not true. So if it goes all the way out there, touches nobody, and somebody hustles over that rope, comes back and plays it, awesome. If it bounces across the street, that's outside of the playing enclosure. That makes sense. So if it goes just outside the rope, that's still fair. Unless what Butch said the second time is if it was touched by anyone other than the person who took it into touch. So if, you know, I'm a ball carrier and I get tackled into touch and Rachel's on the other team and she takes the ball directly from me, she can throw that in. I took it into touch, I'm the only one that's touched it. Now, if I get taken into touch and I put it on the ground and Butch is walking by and it just hits Butch, or it hits Butch as the medical guy, or Butch is a fan, he's got beers in each hand and he touches the ball, any one of those roles, Rachel can't throw that ball in because it's been touched by somebody else other than the person who took it into touch. Now, something to keep in mind here that I definitely know I've gotten caught up before is, say it's a kick chase and I've been kicking the ball, and then it goes into touch. Oh, and I'm smart, right? Me, smart player. I come up and I like touch the ball and I'm like, aha, the quick throw is off. Okay, well, who kicked it last? Me. That would mean I was the last one to take it into touch, which means that quick throw is still live because I can't double touch it, right? Like I was the one that took it in last. So always be aware who touched it last. Was there really another set of hands on it? Awesome. Anything else that would say stop a quick throw?
Anything else that would just make the ball dead? The referee blows his whistle saying, "Hey, I want to go check something. I want to check an injury."
Yeah. That's a really good one. Don't be afraid to stop a quick throw. And you can also just own up to it and say, hey, I'm not actually sure. We're just going to have the line out to the team that was supposed to throw it in. And frankly, I don't care how many people whine because you're just owning up to it. Hey, I'm actually not sure. Hey, there's a player injured. I'm going to take time off. Saying, hey, I'm tired, not a great excuse. Please do not do that. We can also talk about if a quick throw is taken incorrectly. So if a quick throw is thrown ahead,
be careful, guys.
Where they were supposed to be careful with quick throws. If it was taken ahead of the mark where it's supposed to be thrown in, it's actually an option to the other team whether they want to scrum or a line out. That being said, we don't always have to be too technical to law. If they throw it in and it's just not great, and it's there's a million things happening. Maybe it was a half meter in front of the mark. Okay, hey, everybody stop. We're just gonna have the line out here to the team that was gonna throw it in. Especially in the community level game, you're not gonna win any favors being smarter than everyone else that's out there. All right. In goal area, guys. Everyone has done such a good job learning about the goal line dropout and when to have it. Throw that out the window because we're in sevens time. There's no goal line dropout. So all of our scenarios, what would be a 22-meter drop? What would happen that we'd start play with a 22-meter drop? You don't have to look at my screen. Just tell me. Anybody.
Any way that the attacking team causes the ball to enter in goal, then the ball's dead for some reason. Anything, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Attack carries it in, defense grounds it. 22-meter drop. Attack kicks it in, it goes dead through in goal. If it goes directly dead through in goal, it's actually an option, scrum up or 22. If attack kicks it in and then somebody else kicks it dead, 22-meter drop. Exactly. If it's simultaneously grounded with touch and goal, 22-meter drop. It's a rare one. You probably won't get that without TMO. And then likewise, if the defense brings it in and it's made dead for any other reason, it's a 5-meter attacking scrum. So defense brings it in, boots it out the back. They brought it in, 5-meter attacking scrum. Likewise with our held ups. You've got someone trying to score a try, they get held up, 5-meter attacking scrum. So it's awesome. Back to basics on that. You will be a great contender for the sticky icky should you give a goal line dropout in our sevens games. So Texas thing. Last one I want to say, there's no place kicking. So should a team elect to go for points, it is a drop kick. And should a team, when they're kicking their conversion, they must all be drop kicks, just like a kickoff. So that's a fun one. I did want to bring up this clip. This is a trend that we've been seeing. I'll apologize in advance. Most of the clips are me. Sorry, it's the games I had access to. Okay. So a trend that we've been seeing here is really kind of affecting our quick ball and really affecting our space around the ruck. So I'll play it here. I'll probably turn this down because it's quite loud. So you cannot dive within a meter of the ruck area. So even if that ball is out, the player in red cannot dive that close to that breakdown and just kind of kill that ball. So that is something that we've been seeing creeping in a bit in the international game. I do believe that we will be seeing that as well in the club game. So just being sure that if it's within a meter of that ruck area, defense cannot dive like that. This will help promote positive play. All right, we're going to go on to advantage. Are there any questions here about the laws or this specific tactic that we've been seeing? Nope. Awesome. I don't know why my thing stopped being big, but here we go. All right, moving on to advantage. So advantage is played a little differently in sevens. Frankly, I think it's a bit easier just because it's a lot shorter. We're going to talk about both scrum and penalty advantage here. So scrum advantage is all about the team who didn't commit the knock-on having possession and control. Scrum advantage is very, very short. It's typically just having possession of that ball and then being able to do what you want with it. And it doesn't have to be very dramatic. It's just very quick and easy. So we'll have a knock-on example here.
Into the 22.
So we had a knock-on by White.
Just knocked on from Great Britain. So they're attacking it, but not working out so far. Canada, slow things down. And it's over. Worth the goodie.
All right, so it's just that easy. Knock-on happens.
To the 22.
It's a little messy right there.
Just knocked on from Great Britain.
As soon as that ball is clean and available for the red team, you can have that advantage.
Hi, how are you?
15 picks up the ball,
Yeah.
and there is an attacking team set up. She's going to do exactly what she wants with this ball. Advantage is over. Awesome. It's all over before that kick. We don't have to see that kick happen. It's very, very quick.
Thank you.
Got another example here. Very similar. There's a knock on right off of that contest. Again, secure ball right at that time that we get to that secure ball at the breakdown and someone ready to play it. Advantage is over. Black has the ball. They're going to play it as they wish. So it's just that easy, sweet and short. Penalty advantage. It is very hard to play in sevens. Typically, the advantage is just that penalty because by calling a penalty, the defense has to back up 10 meters and the attack has that space. And all they want is the space to play, right? With fewer players on the field, 10 meters is exactly what they want. That being said, you can play penalty advantage if the attack has space to play, they have ball in hand and already are attacking at speed. So typically you would see this in a marginal high tackle while a player is on a break. So players like over the shoulder, they're dishing it off to someone. Advantage the high tackle. Yep, they got the pass off. Advantage is over because that player is having a clean break. Or an offside player at a ruck when there's a clear overlap. So that's the example that I've got here for you guys. We're going to look at this. This is at following a line break. Gold is rushing back on defense, and the last goal defender never gets onside. So this last goal defender, right in front of the referee, she's never gotten onside. Black, yes, is under pressure, has two players out here, though, against nobody on the wide part of the field. Gotta call it just in case 6 knocks the ball on quite dramatically. You could always come back for that offside. She doesn't. She walks in. Yeah, that's a good example of when to play penalty advantage when, frankly, we all knew what was going to happen anyway, right? And if you're not getting penalty advantage immediately, right, you're basically just going to come back and call the penalty. Somebody had a question. Yes, please.
So just your advantage is very quick with it, and I was just wondering, are you saying out loud advantage and then immediately after saying advantage is over?
That's a great question. Not always. Sometimes the advantage, sometimes it's almost too quick. Like someone will knock the ball on into a defender's hand and the defender will take off and all I will say is over. So it's kind of like a silent advantage.
Thank you.
Where you're just like, yep, advantage over, even though nobody knew they had it. And likewise, in that first example with Canada and Great Britain, there was a knock on. I put the arm out to show that I had seen it. And it wasn't until that ball was secure and I was like, oh, this actually could be played that I said the advantage and then was essentially just like, yep, advantage over. Because I didn't want to say it and then immediately blow the whistle. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
That's a great question. Awesome. Any other questions about advantage? No. Excellent. Oh. All right. Moving into our zero tolerance areas. Deliberate knock-ons. This is always a fun one to talk about in sevens. And I hope the audio comes through for these because this is a really great example of what a deliberate knock-on is. In sevens, it's risk versus reward. The defenders know by putting their arm out there anywhere near that pass, if they get possession, they've likely got a line break and a score. If they don't, they're risking 2 minutes in the bin. And this has been going on in sevens for years. So people are very used to this. All right, we're going to watch this. Hopefully the sound is working. I will turn it up.
So,
So if you can't hear what the commentators are saying, it's pretty quiet. The commentators are immediately as it happens, well, there comes a yellow card. Anytime you put your hand out there and don't keep the ball, it's going to be a yellow card. So there's less of a conversation here about, is it one hand? Is it two? Is it hand, yada, yada. We really aren't looking at all of that. We're looking at white is on attack here, and black disrupts that attack and is never going to get that ball. It's a different picture, which I'll show you next on one that's in the tackle. But anything like this, a big long looping pass, hands come up and do not get it, you're looking at a yellow card. Now in sevens, you're not going to have a penalty only deliberate knock on. You're only going to have a knock on the tackle or a yellow card. And if it prevents a try, yellow card and penalty try. Ooh. This is another example, and we've got a really good replay here on this one. We'll just watch the replay here in slow-mo. So green is going into this tackle here. And you may be saying, I'm confused now. I don't understand deliberate knock-on. Yes, because this is what we want to judge as a knock-on in the tackle. Green is really making an attempt to tackle here. Just because her arm gets a piece of that ball does not make this a deliberate knock-on. And the ball's still basically in the hands of the yellow player. Had the yellow player already thrown it and it was a big swooping arm coming in, you can buy that as a deliberate knock-on. But this is exactly what we want. It's just a knock-on in the tackle. Don't know who that ref is. Crazy. She would do that. But again, we all make mistakes. We all see things differently. Best thing here is to just learn and try to calibrate yourself so that you're giving consistent pictures. The second area of zero tolerance we have in sevens is throwing the ball away. I actually couldn't find any good examples of this from the series videos because we've basically gotten it out of the game. That being said, at the club level, community level, it still might be happening. So triggers for throwing the ball away is at a line out. So again, that example, I'm getting tackled and Rachel comes up. She wants to take a quick throw and I throw that ball away from her. I'm like, nah, you're not throwing that in quickly. That's a yellow card. Or at a penalty, if, I've gone off my feet and I'm on the ball and Rachel's looking to take a quick tap and I throw that ball away from her anywhere, just like, nope, because the game of sevens is so quick, we want to promote that quick play. Anybody deliberately seen as preventing that quick play, 2 minutes in the bin. So those are our two areas of zero tolerance. Say zero tolerance because every time you do it, it's a yellow card. Awesome. Any questions on that?
Yeah. So, if at a penalty they roll it away, you give the yellow card. Are you marching them another 10 meters back?
That is my favorite question because it doesn't have a great answer. In law, yes, you are. Typically, we don't actually usually do it on the series. I'll be completely honest. Why we don't do it, I'm not sure. It just is one of those things where if we're giving a yellow card for throwing the ball away, we just haven't done it. So I wish I could be clear and concise. In law, you do. So stick to the law answer. And yes, what I would suggest though is don't let them take that next quick tap quickly. Make sure you've slowed everything down.
Thank you.
I wish we
Any,
were doing that, but
do you have any more tolerance for these, these yellow cards when we're refing like youth? 'Cause we have high school tournaments coming up. Sometimes they just literally don't know any better, or maybe they are trying to catch a ball and they miss it.
yeah,
Or should we just go ahead and be as tough on them? But they tend to have so many cards if we're that strict. That's a concern.
I think there is definitely more empathy you can put in for what's a deliberate attempt to knock down that ball versus like this player's trying to catch it and just got it wrong. You can start looking at, okay, maybe did it prevent a line break, especially in the high school game? Because I do agree with you, like if you ref them like this, you're just giving a million cards. But I think that that's probably something you can talk about like at the setup of the tournament. If you got a specific high school tournament, be like, all right, give the message to the coaches, give the message to the teams. This is how we're trying to referee the game of sevens. Make sure if you're going for an interception, you're really making an effort to catch that ball and you really have a chance of catching it. You're not just throwing yourself out there. Well, I think that's a really good question. Cool. Any other question? What is it do? Sorry.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes, excellent.
So, this is a little more along discipline where at club level, I know you guys have kind of done away with it in the series. But discipline with the back chat, continues players just talking, and I'm saying for the more, some of us know how to handle it, some of us don't. What is your advice on that?
So there typically tends to be a lot less time to back chat in sevens because everyone's so tired. I do have a tip that might help at the end. But what I will say is penalties are not as expensive in the game of sevens, if that makes sense. When you call a penalty in 15s, there's a big thought and process about what you do next, right? Oh, you go for points, you go kick for the corner, so you're going to maul it in, you take a scrum, yada, yada. In sevens, it's really just a restart of the game. So it's really easy to set your foot down and be like, no, back 10, you're not going to argue my calls. And then you just move on with that. And then maybe talk to that player, talk to the captain, after a try or something. But I will say that's why we have 0 tolerance areas with yellow cards, because it's all just less expensive in the game of sevens. So my short answer to that is don't be afraid to just penalize early, but I think they will run out of energy because they'll be running around a lot.
Thank you.
No worries. They will be running around a lot because on to our next section, time management. All right. So time management, we've got very tight schedules coming up. That whole famous 20 minutes to do a 14-minute match with a 2-minute halftime is never enough. So this is, I'm going to say, confidently goes to everyone out in Texas. Everybody else, it's a really good practice, and there's a lot of good tips on how to keep games on time. So starting and finishing matches, you want to get to your field a little bit early. You want to find your teams. You want to make sure your teams know, hey, as soon as they're done, we're going to get out there and we're going to start the game. So do that little bit of legwork, because if you show up at 9 o'clock, it's going to be 9:05 when you kick off and you're already starting at a loss. So get those teams, get them on. If they want to do a cheer, okay, but try to move them along. Hey, we got to get going, everybody. That's basically going to be your famous statement all day. Hey, we've got to get going. We've got to get going. by you putting in that urgency, teams will really adapt to that and say, oh, I guess we got to go. So, same with finishing matches. I know I've said this before. Use your best judgment. So, the halves are 7 minutes. If it's 6 minutes and 58 seconds and the score is 70-0, you probably don't need to kick off again, regardless of the 2 seconds that are left on the clock. Now, if it's 6 minutes and 58 seconds and the score is 21-19, you're going to need to play that last set of phases because it's that close of a score. But if the score is 50-0, and again, it's like 10 seconds, there's enough games in a day in Texas that they don't need to play that 10 seconds. And the old saying, nothing good ever happened in injury time. So, from a try, from the actual grounding of the try, a team has 30 seconds to make the conversion. So, my technique, every time a try is scored, I immediately look at the watch. Make sure the area is clear. Go back in line with where the kick is. As that kicker is coming up, I give usually a 15-second warning. Hey, you've got 15 seconds left on the kick. At what point they'll say, "Oh, God, okay," and they'll get ready and kick it. If they go 35 seconds, okay, whatever. But you're not going to sit there and like 3, 2, 1, no kick. You are going to help them. Hey, 15 seconds. Okay, you've got 5 now. You got to go. And encourage them again. Put that urgency in. From the conversion, they've got 30 seconds to kick off again. So again, right when they make that conversion attempt, look at the watch. Excellent. Jog back to halfway. And again, when that kicker comes up, it's probably the same player. It's probably really tired. You got to be like, again, hey, 10 seconds to kick off. You're not going to penalize them if they go an extra 2-3 seconds over, but you are going to put that urgency in. Now, if you say, hey, you've got 10 seconds to kick off, and they're really giving zero care about this, and then you're like, you need to kick it now. And they're like, okay, all right, boys, you can go ahead and free kick them for time wasting. But we want to ones that are 45 seconds, not the ones that are 32 seconds. So again, a little bit of empathy. Make sure you've done all you can to try to speed them up. But what about the balls? Well, not every tournament can have John O. Cooper out here being the best ball boy ever. So what I mean by this is there always seems to be a lack of balls at a sevens tournament, and the team that kicks it goes over the fence, and then they come back to halfway and they say, oh, we don't have a ball to kick off with. In Texas, what you're going to want to do is before a game, make sure the referee manager the whole tournament lets the coaches know you've got to have a ball shagger. When a team scores a try, you're going to let them know, hey, you need somebody back there to retrieve that kick. It can be somebody playing, it can be somebody on their bench, doesn't really matter. But as soon as they score that and they're walking back from the kick, say, hey, just so you know, you got to have a teammate back there. That should solve the issue because they'll be quicker to receive it. Again, if there's a fence, if it goes over the fence, be like, hey, can you put one of your guys on D2 back there to just kick these balls back? Because we need to keep the game going. Because if you go back to halfway, you don't have the ball, time off, we're waiting 2 minutes, we finally get a ball, we're going to be off time again. So inserting that urgency again, try to solve problems before they become an issue. Just so you have a ball at the halfway. If they're being told that they need to go shag the ball and they don't care, and they're just happy to wait and be like, whatever, I'll just wait here, somebody will get my ball for me. Again, you can free kick them, but it needs to be a pretty blatant show of disregard for the rules and everybody else's time. Cool. That's the ball conversation. Or just get Jono. And then halftime again, it's a 2-minute halftime. Around a minute, so you go to halftime. Basically, the teams huddle up. 30 seconds of them in their huddles, start blowing the whistle. Doot, doot. All right, we got to start getting going again because it'll take them at least 45 seconds from their huddle to get back into position. So if you time a full 2 minutes and then start making the actions, it's going to be a long time. Again, theme of this, be proactive and increase urgency. And like I said at the beginning, this is for Texas. Everybody else, these tactics really work, especially if you're somewhere with a screen. You can't really stop games early. I understand that, but use your judgment. All right. We've reached the end of my presentation where I have my friendly tips and tricks screen. That's you. That's my best point. I'm telling you all my tips and tricks. Number one, sevens, long hot days. Take care of yourself. Priority number one is you. Drink a bottle of water every game. Eat some snacks. Don't overgo with the snacks because you'll feel really bad. It happens to me. And make sure you get off your feet and sit in a chair, sit on the ground, get your feet up. I always am guilty of running around all day, getting really excited, seeing everyone, and you're really making yourself prone for injury. It's a long season, so just trust it. Hydration, snacks, get off your feet. Bit more technical, if you're trying to manage a situation at the breakdown, it's probably already too late and the ball's already slowed down. So if you find yourself at a ruck and you're like, oh, roll away, and there's like a delay, you probably already should have called the penalty. Number 3, always know where the ball is. This ties in really well with the throwing away the ball conversation and actually ties into the back chat conversation that we were having. Because I find if you're focused on the ball and assuming that everyone's always going to take quick taps and everyone's always going to run, you get dragged into less conversations. So you have a penalty, back 10, you see the ball, big effort to get the defense back 10, and then quick tap, you're focused on running with the ball. Now, if the defense is yelling at you, that's great because you're already running that way and you really don't have anyone yelling at you. But if you engage with the defense, somebody's quick tapped, you've now lost the ball, they get tackled by somebody else, you're getting yelled at, they get tackled by somebody else, now there's a fight. If you keep track of the ball and focus on that, you are probably less likely to get tied into other things. Again, that also works with the throwing the ball away and then the quick throws. If you know where the ball is, you're ready for whatever happens next. And then my last tip, be flexible and always be ready. Sevens tournaments are pretty wild. There's changes all over the place and it's very, very sudden. Don't volunteer for more than you can handle, but be flexible to pick up a flag, help someone out. Jump into a game you didn't think that was on the schedule or you didn't think that you were ready for. If somebody's like, oh no, we need a referee here now, maybe it's a level above what you're used to, but be confident, be ready. You can do anything in sevens. I mean, a lot of these games are basically self-refereed. So just be ready to jump in. And that's all my tips and tricks I've got for you. Are there any questions from the presentation or any other sevens related questions that you guys have?
Yes, I had a question for you.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Brad Lawrence up in New York. What are you doing for fitness as you're at a different level than us? What are you doing for fitness right now to get to that, to where you are?
I do a lot of mass training. So max aerobic speed, it's like 30 seconds on hard running, 30 seconds rest, repeat that like 6 or 7, 8 times. So the one I did today was 70 meters out and back. That'll be 30 seconds and then a 30-second rest. I usually do my sprint work before that, which is just what it sounds like. Very full speed, but short, lot of rest. To make sure I've got that max speed, especially for sevens. And then there's the conditioning block, which will be the math stuff. So works pretty well. Made me die today, which was fun. But gets me ready for the weekend. Awesome. Any other questions? No?
What about some of the like reffing local rugby? You know, what do you see at, let's say, the D3 level, that the mistakes players make or things we should look out for as refs? Any tips there? Tend to be a little different than the top team sometimes.
I think that's a really good question. I think it's almost like you can see someone wanting to do something wrong a lot more. I always call it that like look in their eyes. You see like somebody offside at the ruck and they get this look of just like, oh, and you're like, no, 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 don't do it. And I feel like you can actually have a lot more preventative efforts in a D3 game of be like, hey, don't dive over that ruck. And they're always like, okay. Or they're like hanging on the side and they're like putting an arm out. Like you can be like, don't play that 9. And they're like, oh, okay. So I see that. I do think as much as I said, if you try to manage, it's already too late. If you're aware of where the 9 is and whoever's playing that ball, if they haven't arrived yet, there is time to actually be like, leave the ball, hands away. Okay, nothing has actually been slowed down, and you can play that out. I do think that opportunity is a lot more. But that being said, I think you can just take a breath more and things will fix themselves a lot of the time. So sometimes like I'll see something, I'll see a guy diving over and I'm like, oh, that's the clearest diving over I've ever seen. But if I actually wait a second, he like dives over and then gets out of the way and nobody's offended by it. Like the attacking team's like, yeah, I can still play this ball. And in my mind, I'm like, oh, you would never be able to play that ball at the 7s level because they would have completely killed it. But D3 guys are like, you know what? I shouldn't have done that. I'll just move out of the way now. And the attacking team's like, awesome, ball's still here. We play on. So I definitely find myself like waiting an extra second when I do the club games, being like, actually, this could fix itself.
Yeah, so I guess that would apply to our, our social division as opposed to the premier. I mean, they're slower out of the ruck, so maybe you can, even 7s, manage them just a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
And wait to see what happens before you blow it. Maybe you don't have to blow as quickly because sometimes it'll work itself out.
Yeah, I think that's a very, very good point, especially with the like social divisions. I will say social divisions, you probably do need to stay closer to that breakdown because some of the social players that like to play 7s are the Venn diagram of them who also like to get into fights. I find a large overlap. So you just got to watch them at the ruck. Awesome. Anything else? Thanks everyone for coming on. I see some faces and names from all over the US, which is really cool. I appreciate you guys hopping on as well. I feel like I'd never actually seen Brad Lawrence in person. It's a very exciting thing for me because I've heard your name a million times and I'm like, it's Brad Lawrence, guys. So cool. I appreciate everybody for coming on. This is really cool. I'll have this uploaded to my YouTube and I will share that out on the TRRA channels as well. So if anybody missed out, you can point them to this just as a nice little refresher for that first 7s tournament of the season. Stop my recording now.